So now we discuss important topic today, which is very important all the time for civil service main exam and prelim exam point of view. So Quit India movement. Today topic: Quit India movement. Demand for Pakistan. INA. Okay, and it is mainly 23, chapter 23. Quit India movement, demand for Pakistan, and the INA. So Quit India movement. After the Cripps departure, Gandhi framed a resolution calling for British withdrawal and a non-violent, non-cooperation movement against any Japanese invasion. Okay, Gandhi framed a resolution calling for British withdrawal and a non-violent, non-cooperation movement against any Japanese invasion. The Congress Working Committee meeting at Wardha 1942. So where it is meeting? It is in Wardha 1942, July 14. Accepted the idea of a struggle. Where it is the accepted the idea of struggle? It is mainly at Wardha, the Congress Working Committee (CWC) meeting at Wardha. Why start a struggle now? The reasons were why start a struggle? Because the reasons were several. The failures of Cripps' mission to solve the constitutional deadlock exposed Britain's unchanged attitude on constitutional advance and made it clear that any more silence would be tantamount to accepting the British might will decide the fate of the Indian without consuming them. So if question come, why start a struggle now? Cripps' mission here. Quit India movement. Why start? Because the failure of Cripps' mission to solve the constitutional deadlock exposed Britain's unchanged attitude on constitutional advance and made it clear that any more silence would be tantamount to accepting the British right to decide. So it is tantamount to accepting the British right to decide the fate of Indians without consulting them. There was popular discontent because of rising prices. Okay, rising prices and shortage of rice, salt, etc. And because of factors such as commandeering of boats in Bengal and Odisha. There are fears of Britain following this scorched earth policy in Assam and Bengal and Odisha against possible Japanese advance. News of reverses suffered by the British in Southeast Asia and the imminent British collapse enhanced popular willingness to give expression to discontent. The Japanese troops were approaching the borders of India, and the Japanese troops were approaching the borders of India, and popular faith in the stability of British rule was so low that people were withdrawing deposits from banks and post office. So the Japanese troops were approaching the borders of India. Popular faith in the stability of British rule was so low that people were withdrawing deposits from banks and post office. So just I also discuss why we should just start a struggle now, mainly Quit India movement. It is after Cripps' departure, Gandhiji framed a resolution and British withdrawal and a non-violent, non-cooperation movement against the Japanese invasion, and Congress Working Committee at Wardha 1942 at July 14 accepted the idea of a struggle. The manner is in which the British evacuated from the Southeast Asia, leaving the subject to their fate. The two roads were provided: black road for Indian refugees and white road. So black road for Indian refugees and white road for exclusively European refugee, and the route of European for Asian for settled white prestige. And the British behavior towards the Indian subject in Southeast Asia exposed the racist attitude of the rulers. So British behavior towards the Indian subjects in Southeast Asia exposed the racist attitudes of the rulers. The leadership wanted to condition the masses for possible Japanese invasion. So the Quit India movement, Quit India resolution. In July 1942, the Communist Working Committee met at Wardha and resolved that it would authorize Gandhi to take change in the non-violent mass movement. The resolution generally referred to as the Quit India resolution, proposed by the Jawaharlal Nehru and seconded by the Sardar Patel. It was to be approved by the All India Congress Committee meeting in Bombay in August. So the resolution changed the non-violent mass movement. Here we can see, in 1942 Congress Working Committee met at Wardha and resolved that it would authorize Gandhi to take charge in the non-violent mass movement. Okay, please remember important of a non-violent mass movement. The resolution generally referred to as the Quit India resolution, proposed by Jawaharlal Nehru and seconded by the Sardar Patel. It was to be approved by the All India Congress Committee meeting in Bombay in August. The Quit India resolution was ratified. The Quit India resolution was ratified at the Congress meeting at Gwalior Tank, Bombay on August 8, 1942. The Quit India resolution was ratified at the Congress meeting at Gwalior Tank, Bombay on August 8, 1942. The meeting was resolved to the demand an immediate end to British rule in India. The demand the meeting also resolved the demand an immediate end to the British rule in India and declare commitment of free India to defend in itself against all types of fascism and imperialism. So free India. So here to demand resolved to. So here at the Gwalior Tank, Bombay on August 1942, then the meeting was resolved to demand an immediate end of British rule in India, declare commitment of free India to defend itself against all types of fascism and imperialism, form a provincial government of India after British withdrawal, and sanction a civil disobedience movement. Against British rule. Gandhi was named the leader of the struggle. Okay, who was named as the leader of the struggle? It is Gandhi. So Gandhi's general instruction to different sections. Gandhi's special instructions were spelled out at the Gwalior Tank meeting, but not actually issued. They were directed at various sections of society. Government servants do not resign but declare your allegiance to the Congress. Soldiers do not have leave the army but do not fire on compatriots. Students, if confidence, leave studies. Peasants, if zamindars are anti-government, pay mutually agreed rent. And if zamindars are pro-government, do not pay rent. And princes support of the mass and accept sovereignty of your people. And princely states people support the ruler only if he is anti-government and declare yourself to be part of the Indian nation. Princely states people support the ruler only if he is anti-government and declare yourself to be part of Indian nation. Gandhi followed up with a new famous exhortation. Gandhi followed up with the now famous exhortation. Here is a mantra, a short one that I gave you. Okay, here is a mantra. What mantra? It's a short one that I gave you. You may imprint it on your hearts and let every breath of your gives expression to it. The mantra is do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. We shall not live to see the perpetuation of our slavery. Straight of the moment, Gandhiji. So please remember, the spirit of the moment. The Gandhiji had carefully built a tempo through individual civil disobedience movement or satyagraha, organizational revamping, and a constituent propaganda campaign. The government, however, was in no mood to either negotiate with the Congress or wait for the movement to be formally launched. In the early hours of August 9, 1942, in a single sweep, all the top leaders of the Congress were arrested and taken to unknown destination. The Congress Working Committee, the All India Congress Committee, and Provincial Congress Committee. So All India Congress Committee, Working Committee, and the Provincial Working Committee. Provincial Congress committees were declared unlawful associations under the Criminal Law Amendment Act 1908. So the Congress Working Committee, All India Congress Committee, and the Provincial Congress Committee were declared unlawful association under the Criminal Law Amendment Act 1908. The Assembly of Public Meetings was prohibited under the Rule 56 of the Defence of India Rules. The Assembly of Public Meeting was prohibited under the Rule of 56 Defence of India Rules. The removal of established leaders left the younger and militant element to their own initiative, with the major leaders out of the picture. Young Aruna Ashraf Ali, till then relatively unknown, presided over the Congress Committee and session. So presided Aruna Ashraf Ali, till then relatively unknown, and presided over the Congress Committee session on August 9 and hosted the flag. Public rampage. The general public attacked symbols of authority and hosted national flags forcibly on public buildings. Satyagrahis offered themselves up to arrest, bringing bridges were blown up, railway tracks were removed, and telegraph lines were cut. This kind of activity was most intense in Eastern United Province and Bihar. Students responded by going on strike in schools and colleges, participating in processions, writing and distributing illegal news sheets, patrikas, and acting as couriers for underground network. Workers went on strike in Ahmedabad, Bombay, Jamshedpur, and Ahmednagar and Pune. So unorganized activity. Many nationalists went unorganized and took a subversive activity. The participants in this activity were the socialist forward bloc members, Gandhi Ashramites, the revolutionary nationalists, and local government organization in Bombay, Pune, Satara, Baroda, and other parts of Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, Andhra, and United Province, Bihar, and Delhi. And then the main personalities taking up underground activity were Ram Manohar Lohia, Jayaprakash Narayan, Aruna Ashraf Ali, Usha Mehta, Biju Patnaik, and Chottubhai Puranik, and Achyut Patwardhan, and Sujata Kripalani, R.P. Goenka, and others like Usha Mehta started an underground radio in Bombay. This phase of underground activity was meant to keep up popular moral by continuing to provide a line of command and guidance to distribute arms and ammunition. Though the need for non-violence was always reiterated, Gandhi's mantra "Do or Die" represents the militant mood of Gandhi Smith Sarkar. Parallel government. Parallel government were established at many places by Balia in August 1942 for a week under the Chittu Pandey. He got many Congress leaders released and Tamluk Medinapur from December 1942 to September 1944. Jatiya Sarkar undertook Walia in August 1942 for a week under Chittu Pandey. He got many Congress leaders released. Tamluk Medinapur from December 1942 to September 1944. Jatiya Sarkar undertook cyclone relief work, sanctioned grants to school, supplied paddy from the rich to the poor, organized Vidyut Bahinis, etc. Satara. Mid 1943 to 1945, named Prati Sarkar was organized under leaders like Y.B. Chauhan, Nana Patil, etc. Village libraries and Noyadan mandals were organized. Prohibition campaigns were carried on, and Gandhi's marriages were organized. Active help was provided by businessmen through donation. Active help was provided by businessmen through donations. Through donations and shelter, material help, student acting as couriers, and simple village by refusing information to authority, pilots and train drivers by delivering bombs and other materials, and government officials including police who passed a secret information to the activists. Please remember, extent of mass participation. Extent of mass participation. The participation was on many levels: youth, women, workers, and peasants. Youth, especially the students of the schools, colleges, remained in the forefront. Women, especially schools and colleges and girls, actively participated and included Aruna Shawali, Sujata Kripalini, and Usha Mehta. Workers went on strike and faced repression. Reason to all Satara were at the heart of the movement. Even some Jamindars participated. These peasants concentrated their offensive on the peasants were concentrated their offensive on symbols and of authority, and there was complete absence of anti-Jamindar violence. Government officials, especially those belonging to lower levels in police and administration, participated, resulting in erosion of government loyalty. Muslims helped by giving shelter to underground activists. There were no communal classes during the movement. The communists who did not join the movement in the wake of the Russia, where the communists were in power, being attacked by Nazi Germany, the communists began to support the British war against Germany, and imperialist war became the People's War. Important. A Muslim League opposed the movement. And fearing that if the British left India at that time, the minorities would be opposed by the Hindus. The Muslim League opposed the movement, and fearing that if the British left India at the time, the minorities would be oppressed by the Hindus. The Hindu Mahasabha boycotted the movement, and the princely states showed a very low-key response. So government repression. Although Material law was not applied. The repression was severe. Agitating crowds were lathi charge, tear gases, and fired upon. The number of those killed is estimated at 10,000. The press was muzzled. The military took over many cities. Police and Secret Service regained supreme. Rebellious villages were fined heavily, and in many villages, mass flogging was done. Okay, estimate left without leaders, there was no restraint, and violence became common. The main storm centers of the movement were in eastern United Province, Bihar, Midnapur, Maharashtra, Karnataka. Students, workers, and peasants were the backbone of the movement, while the upper class and the bureaucracy remained legally loyal, and loyalty to government suffered considerable erosion. This also showed how deep nationalism had raised. The movement established the truth that it was no longer possible to rule India without the wishes of Indians. The element of spontaneity was higher than before, although a certain degree of popular initiative had been sanctioned by the leadership itself, subject of limitations of the instruction. Although the Congress had been ideologically, politically, organizationally preparing for the struggle for a long time. The great significance was that the movement placed the demand for independence on the immediate agenda of the national movement. After Quit India, could be no retreat. In this struggle, the common people displayed unparalleled heroism and militancy. The repression they faced was the most brutal. The repression they faced was most brutal, and the circumstances under which resistance was offered were most advised. Gandhi's Pact. In February 1943, Gandhi started a fast as an answer to an exhortation by the government to condemn violence. The first was directed against the violence of the state. The popular response to the news of the first turn was immediate and overwhelming. Protests were organized at home and abroad through hartals, demonstrations and strikes. 3 members of the Viceroy Executive Council resigned. The first achieved the following. Public morals was raised, anti-British feeling was heightened, and opportunity was provided for political activity. Public moral was raised, anti-British feeling was heightened, and an opportunity was provided for political activity. And government's high-handedness was exposed. Gandhi got the better of his opponents and refused to oblige by dying. On March 23, 1943, the Pakistan Day was observed. Famine of 1943, the horror and inconvenience of war were increased by the famine of 1943. The worst affected areas of southwest Bengal region, southwest Bengal, comprising the Tamluk, Kantai, Diamond Harbour region, and Dhaka, Faridpur, and Tipara, Noakhali. Around 1.5 to 3 million people perished in this basically man-made famine. The epidemics like malaria, cholera, smallpox, malnutrition, and starvation. The fundamental causes of the famine were as follows. So you can see all the things: malaria, cholera, smallpox, malnutrition, and starvation. So famine, 1943. The fundamental cause of the famine were as follows. So what are the causes, important causes, like the need to feed a vast army diverted foodstuffs, rice imports from Burma and Southeast Asia had been stopped. The famine got aggravated by gross mismanagement and deliberate profiteering. Rationing methods were belated and were confined to big cities. Rajagopalchari formula. Next we discuss, just wait. So our topic is Rajagopalchari formula. Rajagopalchari formula. Meanwhile, efforts were to be solved the ongoing constitutional crisis, and some individuals also tried to come up with constitutional proposals. The formula of the Sri Rajagopalchari, the veteran Congress leader, prepared a formula for Congress League cooperation in 1944. It was a tacit acceptance of the League demand for Pakistan. Gandhi supported the formula. The main points in the CR plan were Muslim League to endorse Congress demand for independence, League to cooperate with Congress in forming a provincial government at center. So Muslim League to endorse Congress demand for independence, League to cooperate with Congress in forming a provincial government at center. After the end of the war, the entire population of Muslim majority areas in the northwest and northeast needed to decide by a plebiscite whether or not to form a separate sovereign state. In case of acceptance of partisan agreement to be made jointly by safeguarding defense and commerce, communication, etc. The above terms to be operative by only if England transferred full powers to India. The above terms to be operative only if the England transferred full powers to India. Objective: Jinnah wanted the Congress to accept the two-nation theory. She wanted only the Muslims. Here we just also again revise some important the formula. He was the veteran Congress leader. Okay, and Congress League so a formula prepared a formula for Congress League cooperation in 1944. It was a tacit acceptance. Okay, tacit acceptance of the League demand for Pakistan. Gandhi supported the formula. The main points in CR formula: Muslim leagues to endorse Congress demand for independence, and League to cooperate with Congress in forming provincial government at center. League to cooperate with Congress in forming provincial government at center. After the end of the war, the entire population of the Muslim majority areas in the northwest and northeast of India to decide by plebiscite whether or not to form a separate sovereign state. In case of acceptance, the participant agreement to be made jointly by for safeguarding defense, commerce, communication, etc. The above terms to be operated only if England transferred full powers. Okay, if England transferred full powers to India. Objective. What are the objective important of the Rajagopalchari formula? So the Jinnah wanted the Congress to accept the two-nation theory. Okay, he wanted only the Muslim of the northwest and northeast to vote in the plebiscite, and not the entire population. He also opposed the idea of a common center. He also opposed the idea of a common center. While the Congress was ready to cooperate with the League for the independence of the Indian Union, the League did not care for independence of the Union. It was only interested in a separate nation. Hindu leaders led by Veer Savarkar condemned the CR formula. Desai-Liaquat Pact. Next we discuss important topics. So Desai-Liaquat Pact efforts continued to end the deadlock. Bhulabhai Desai, leaders of the Congress party in the Central Legislative Assembly, met Liaquat Ali Khan and deputy leaders of the Muslim League in the assembly. In point, both of them come with the draft proposals for the formation of an interim government at the center and consisting of an equal number of persons nominated by the Congress. So equal number of persons nominated by the Congress. And League in the Central Legislature 20% reserved seats for minorities. No students could be raised between the Congress and League on these lines, but the fact that in sort of the parity between Congress and the League was decided upon had far-reaching consequences. No settlement could be raised between the Congress and the League on these lines, but the fact that a sort of the parity between the Congress and the League was decided upon had far-reaching consequences. Wavell Plan. Although the war in Europe come to an end in May 1945, and the Japanese threat still remained. The conservative government in Britain, led by Churchill, was keen to reach a solution. So Churchill was keen to reach the solution on the constitutional question in India. The Viceroy of Lord Wavell was permitted to start negotiation with the Indian leaders. Congress leaders were released from jails in June 1945. Why Congress government was keen on a solution now? The Governor General in England was scheduled for mid-1945. The Conservative wanted to seem as sincere on reaching a solution. And second is the there was pressure from the Allies to seek further Indian cooperation in the war. There was a pressure from the Allies to seek further Indian cooperation in the war. The government wanted to divert Indian energies into channels more profitable for the British. The idea was to reconstruct the Governor General's Executive Council pending the preparation of a new constitution. For this purpose, a conference was convened by the Viceroy Lord Wavell at Simla in June 1945. The main proposals of the Wavell Plan was please remember, the idea was to reconstruct the Governor General's Executive Council pending the preparation of a new constitution. For this purpose, the conference was convened by the Viceroy Lord Wavell at Simla in June 1945. The main proposals of the Wavell Plan were as follows, with the exception of the Governor Generals and the Commander-in-Chief. All members of the Executive Council were to be Indian caste. Hindus and Muslims were to have equal representation. And the reconstructed council was to function as an interim government within the framework of the 1935 Act that is not responsible to the Constitutional Assembly. The Governor General was to be exercised his veto on the active advice of minister. Representatives of different parties were to submit a joint list to the Viceroy nor nomination to be Executive Council. So Governor General was exercise his veto on the advice of the minister. Representatives of different parties were to submit a joint list to the Viceroy for nomination for the Executive Council. If a joint list was not possible, then separate lists were to be submitted. Possibilities were to be kept open for negotiation on a new constitution. Once the war was finally won, Muslim League stand. The League wanted all Muslim members to be League nominees because it feared that since the aims of other minorities, depressed class 6 Christians, etc., were the same as those of the Congress. These arrangements would reduce the League to a one-third majority. Wavell wanted Khajar Hayat Khan and as the Muslim representatives from Western Punjab. The League claimed some kind of veto in the council, with the decision opposed to Muslim needing a two-thirds majority of approval. So please remember, so the League's nominees, because it feared that since the aims of other minorities, depressed classes, Christians, etc., were the same as those of the Congress, this arrangement would reduce the League or to a one-third majority. Oval wanted Khizr Hayat Khan as the Muslim representative from the Western Punjab. Just the Congress stand. So Congress stand is mainly Congress objected to the plan and attempt to reduce the Congress or to the states of the purely caste Hindu party, and instead on its right to include members of all communities among its nominees. So Congress stand. The Congress objected to the plan as an attempt to reduce the Congress to the status of a purely caste Hindus party, and insisted on its right to include members of all communities among its nominees. Oval's mistake. Oval announced a breakdown to talk pattern of talks, thus giving the League a virtual veto. This strengthened the League opposition as an event evident from the sections in 1945 to 1946, and boosted Jinnah's position and exposed the real character of the conservative government of Churchill. Indian National Army and Subhash Chandra Bose. Indian National Army and Subhash Chandra Bose. Subhash Chandra Bose was an intrepid man. He had always shown a militant streak and reacted violently to any insult of Indians by the Europeans. He passed the Indian Civil Services exam, securing 4th position, but resigned from the service in 1921 to join the struggle for freedom. For becoming a member of the Congress. His political guru was Chittaranjan Das. He became mayor of Calcutta in 1923. He was jailed. He was jailed many times by the British. Once it became clear. Once it became clear to Subhash Chandra Bose that he could not follow Gandhi's way, but that the Congress was determined to follow Gandhi, Bose decided to go his own way to fight for independence. In March 1940, Bose convened an anti-compromise conference at Ramgarh. It was a joint effort on the Forward Bloc and Kisan Sabha. It was resolved at the conference that a worldwide struggle should be launched on April 6, the first day of the National Week, with a call to the people not to help the imperialist war with the any reason, man, money, and materials. He called for resistance to be offered to all forms of exploitation of Indian resources for the imperial case. There was enthusiastic participation by the people in the struggle. Struggle launched on April 6. Bose was arrested in July when he protected and tried to launch Satyagraha against a proposed monument for Holwell in Calcutta. He was released from prison and placed under the house arrest in December 1940. After a hunger strike in January 1941, he was reported that Bose had escaped. On January 26, 1941, he reached Peshawar under the pseudonym Ziauddin, helped by Bhagat Ram. He was released from prison and placed under house arrest in December 1940 after the hunger strike. In January 1941, he was reported that Bose had escaped. On January 26, 1941, he reached Peshawar under the pseudonym Ziauddin, helped by Bhagat Ram. Later, it was heard that he had left India to supplement from outside the struggle going on at home. He was reported to have approached Russia for help in the Indian struggle for the freedom from Britain. But in June 1941, Russia joined the Allies in the war, which disappointed both. He then went to Germany. Both met Hitler under the pseudonym Orlando Mujotto. With the help of Hitler, the Freedom Army Mukti Sena was formed, which consisted of all the prisoners of war of Indian origin captured by Germany and Italy. Dresden, Germany was made the office of the Freedom Army. Both came to be called Netaji by the people of Germany. He gave the famous slogan "Jai Hind" from Free India Center, Germany. Okay. He began regular broadcast. He began regular broadcast from Berlin radio in January 1942, which enthused Indians. In early 1943, he left Germany and traveled by German and later by Japanese submarine. Okay, to reach Japan and then Singapore in July of the same year. He was to take over command of the Indian independence movement from Raspberry Bose. But that was the second phase of the Indian National Army. Origin and first phase of the Indian National Army. The idea of creating an army out of the Indian prisoners of war was originally that the Mohan Singh, an independent army officer who had decided not to join the retreating British Army in Malay, he decided to turn to the Japanese for help. The Japanese had till then encountered Indian civilians to form an anti-British organization. Mohan Singh asked for Indian prisoners of war. Mohan Singh, an Indian army officer who had decided not to join the retreating British army in Malay. Okay, and he decided to turn to the Japanese for help. The Japanese had till then encouraged Indian civilians to form anti-British organization. Mohan Singh asked for Indian prisoners of war. Okay, please remember Mohan Singh, Indian prisoners of war. The Japanese handed over the Indian prisoners of war to Mohan Singh, who tried to recruit them into an Indian National Army. After the fall of Singapore, several POW were ready to join Mohan Singh. So POW means prisoners of war. So many prisoners of war, several prisoners of war were ready to join Mohan Singh by the end of 1942. 40,000 men were ready to join INA, and it was intended that the INA would go into action only on the invitation of the Indian National Congress and the people of India. The move to form this army had been seen by many as a check against the misconduct of the Japanese against Indians in Southeast Asia, and as a bulwark against possible future Japanese occupation of India. INA got a boost with the outbreak of the Quit India movement in India. In September 1942, the first division of INA was formed with 16,300 men, with the Japanese contemplating the Indian invasion. The idea of an armed wing of INA seemed more relevant to them, but soon serious differences emerged between Indian army officers led by Mohan Singh and the Japanese over the role to be played by INA. Actually, the Japanese wanted to take force of 2,000 only, while Mohan Singh wanted to raise a much larger army. Mohan Singh was taken into custody by the Japanese The second phase began with the arrival of Subhash Chandra Bose. Subhash was in Singapore, but before that, the June 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose, under the pseudonym Abid Hussain, reached Tokyo, made the Japanese Prime Minister Tojo the role of Raspberry Bose. The role of Raspberry Bose, another great freedom fighter, should also be acknowledged here. He had fled to Japan in 1915 following the failed revolutionary activities. In Japan, Raspberry Bose eventually became a naturalized citizen. She made a lot of efforts in getting the Japanese interested in the Indian independence movement. She became active Pan-Asian circles founded by the Indian Club of Tokyo and gave lectures on the evils of Western imperialism. Very early itself, he was impressed by Subhash Chandra Bose. When the Indian National Army was formed by Mohan Singh in Singapore, Raspberry Bose was greatly excited and left Tokyo for Southeast Asia. It was at a conference in Bangkok, also under Japanese occupation at the time, that it was decided to place the INA under an Indian Independence League, whose chairman was the would-be Raspberry Bose. He had created the league in 1942 in Tokyo. When Subhash Bose was sought by the Japanese to lead the INA, he was ready for it. He went to Singapore and met Raspberry Bose, and the latter happily transferred the control and leadership of the Indian National League and Indian Army, Indian National Army, to Subhash in July 1943. It must be noted that it was on the organizational sped work done by Raspberry Bose, and that Subhash Bose could build up the Indian National Army. Subhash Bose became Supreme Commander of the INA on August 25. In February 1944, after a collapse of the lungs, Raspberry's health steadily deteriorated, and he died on January 21, 1945, aged 58. On October 21, 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose formed provincial government for Free India at Singapore with H.C. Chatterjee finance portfolio. October 1943, Subhash Bose formed the provincial government for Free India at Singapore with H.C. Chatterjee finance portfolio. MIR Broadcasting, Lakshmi Swaminathan Women Department, etc. The famous slogan "Give me blood, I will give you freedom" was given in Malay. The provincial government declared war on British and the United States and was recognized by the Axis power. Recruits were trained and funds collected from the INA. A women's regiment called Rani Jhansi Regiment was also formed. The INA headquarters was shifted to Rangoon in Burma in January 1944. INA headquarters shifted 1944 January, shifted Rangoon in Burma. And the army recruits are to march from there, which the war cry "Chalo Delhi Chalo" on their leaves. On November 6, 1943, Andaman Nicobar Island was given by the Japanese army to the INA. The islands were named Shahid Deep and Swaraj Deep, respectively. On July 6, 1944, Subhash Bose addressed Mahatma Gandhi as July 1944. So, Father of Nation. From Azad Hind Radio, the first person to call Gandhiji Father of Nation. He asked for Gandhi's blessing for India's last war of independence. In INA battalion commanded by Sahanaj, was allowed to accompany the Japanese army to the Indo-Burma front and participated in the imperial campaign. However, the Indians received disciplinary treatment from the Japanese, which included being denied rations and arms and being made to do manual work for the Japanese units, and they were disgusted and demoralized the INA unit. The Azad Hind Fauj crossed the Burma border and stood on Indian soil. On March 18, 1944, the INA units subsequently advanced up to Kohima and Imphal on April 14, 1914. So 1944, the INA unit subsequently advanced up to Kohima and Imphal. April 14, Colonel Malik of the Bahadur group hoisted the INA flag for the first time on the Indian mainland at Moirang in Manipur, where the INA Memorial Complex stands today. The enthusiastic cries of Jai Hind and Netaji Jindabad. For 3 months, the INA carried out military administration during military administration duties at Moirang, but then the Allied forces reclaimed the territory. The INA met the same fate as the Japanese, and all brigades began their withdrawal on July 18, 1944. The steady Japanese retreat thereafter quashed any hopes of the INA liberating the nation. The retreat continued till mid-1945. On August 15, 1945, the surrender of Japan in the Second World War took place, and with this, the INA also surrendered. On August 18, 1945, reportedly Subhash Bose died mysteriously and in an air crash at Taipei, Taiwan. But when the INA POW were brought back to India after the war to be court-martialed, a powerful movement emerged in their defense. Okay, so now we discuss full books, full concept, and full chapter. So thank you.